Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see the summary of A Doll's House, a play by Henrik Ibsen. Ibsen was born in a wealthy family in Norway in 1828. He failed in his university entrance exam, so he decided to focus on writing, for which he had a good passion. But initially, he was unsuccessful and he was suffering in poverty. Due to this poverty, his wife and his 5-year-old son Sigrand left him in 1864. Later on, this Sigrand only became the Prime Minister of Norway. Ibsen moved to Italy and from there he moved to Germany where he wrote his famous play A Doll's House. In 1891 he returned to Norway and in 1906 he died after suffering several strokes. He is considered to be the father of realism in drama and also thought of as a pioneer of modernism. The play starts with Nora Hellman, a young, beautiful woman, entering a house carrying packages. It is Christmas Eve and a porter delivers a Christmas tree. Nora's husband Torvald comes out from his study room and greets her. She happily shows off the Christmas gift she has brought for the children, and Torvald criticizes her for spending too much. But he is so very affectionate towards her and he keeps on calling her as Little Skylark and Little Squirrel. And the two of them celebrate the fact that Torvald has been recently promoted as bank manager, meaning that they can live a more comfortable life than now. At this time, Mrs. Lind and Dr. Rank arrive. Dr. Rank and Torvald go to his study room. Mrs. Lind, who hasn't seen Nora for 8 years, tells her that her marriage was not a happy one, and since now she is a widow, she is hoping to find a job. Nora promises her that she will ask Torvald to give her a job. At this time, Nora reveals a secret to her and she says that she has been hiding this for all these years. When she and Torvald were married, she borrowed money in order to finance a trip to Italy because it was necessary to save Torvald's life because he had fallen sick. Later, she has paid off the debt in installments, secretly doing jobs and also saving money from her allowance which was given by her husband Torvald. At this time, Nils Krogstad, an employee at the bank, comes there and he goes to Torvald's study and talks to him. Dr. Rank comes out to talk to Nora and says that Krogstad is morally corrupt. Torvald enters and after a brief conversation with Mrs. Lind says that he will definitely give her a job at the bank. Torvald, Mrs. Lind and Dr. Rank exit and Nora goes and plays happily with her children. At this time, Krogstad enters and Nora tells the children to go to their nursemaid and also instructs them not to tell anyone about Krogstad's visit. From their talk, we understand that Krogstad is the person from whom Nora had borrowed the money. Krogstad explains that he is being fired by Torvald and that Nora must stop this happening or else he will tell her secret to everyone. He adds that he has another evidence that Nora has forged her father's signature in an IOU. Krogstad exits and Torvald returns. Nora tries to persuade him not to fire Krogstad, but she is unsuccessful. In Act 2, we find that it is next day, that is Christmas Day, and Nora is found on the stage worried about her fate. Mrs. Lind arrives and asks Nora to see her costume for a fancy dress ball that is being held on Boxing Day. Nora is also dressing as an Italian fisher girl and plans on dancing the tarantella. Mrs. Lind asks to know more about Nora's secret, but Nora refuses to tell her anything for the moment. Torvald enters and Nora tries again to convince him not to fire Krogstad. The harder Nora tries, Torvald gets more and more angry and finally he decides to send the notice immediately. At this time, Dr. Rank arrives and he is found to be depressed. And he also tells Nora that he will die soon. Nora flirts with him and seems to be considering whether to ask him for money. At this time, Dr. Rank reveals that he is in love with her, so Nora gives up the idea of asking him for help. Dr. Rank leaves and Krogstad returns, asking if Nora had told Torvald a secret and telling her his ambition to eventually run the bank. He leaves a letter explaining the secret debt and forgery in Torvald's letterbox and exits. Mrs. Lind returns and Nora explains the situation to her. At this time, Mrs. Lind tells Nora that she and Krogstad used to be in love and asks that Nora should distract Torvald while she attempts to talk to Croxton. Mrs. Lind leaves and Nora begs Torvald to help her rehearsal for the dance. She dances in a very crazy and uninhabited way which puzzles Torvald and he wonders what has gone wrong with her. Mrs. Lind returns saying that Croxton was not there but she had left him a note. The second act ends with Nora declaring that she has only 31 hours left to live, meaning that she is planning to commit suicide. Act 3 opens on the next day. Croxton comes to meet Mrs. Lind at the Helmer's house where they are at the ball. From they speak, we understand that both of them were at love once upon a time, but their relationship ended when Mrs. Lind chose to marry a richer man because that was the only way to support a family. Now Mrs. Lind suggests that since both their respective spouses, that is her husband and his wife, had died, they both can get married and they can take care of their children and they can live together happily. Hearing this, Croxton is really thrilled and offers to ask for his letter to Torvald back, and he also regrets for his early actions. Mrs. Lind, however, tells him to leave it, saying that finally the truth has to come out. Croxton leaves and Nora and Torvald return from the ball. Mrs. Lind tells Nora to tell her husband the truth and then she leaves also. Torvald tells Nora how much he desires her, but Nora stubbornly resists his advance. Dr. Rank arrives and talks happily about how much he enjoyed the party, especially the wine. He leaves and Torvald discovers 2 visiting cards that Dr. Rank put in his letterbox, indicating that he is about to die. Nora says goodnight to Torvald and sneaks out of the room, preparing to escape and commit suicide. But Torvald stops her because he has discovered the letter from Croxton. He is furious with her, saying that she has ruined his life and that although they will keep living to preserve appearances, they cannot be happy and he will not allow her to raise their children. At this time, the maid brings a note from Croxton saying that he no longer wishes to blackmail Nora and the EO also is enclosed in that letter. Torvald is so happy on seeing this and he says that he is saved, and he also says that he forgives Nora. But Nora reveals that she was going to kill herself because she thought that Torvald would step forward and defend her, ruining his life and career. And since she did not want to ruin his life and career, she wanted to commit suicide and die. But she says that she has now realized that she can no longer live with Torvald, whom she considers to be a stranger to her, and wishes to leave in order to discover a sense of who she is. Torvald at first calls her stupid and insane, but he changes his tone and promises to change so that she will stay. But Nora says that she must leave, and we find Torvald left on the stage alone in despair, and the play ends with the sound of the slam of the front door as Nora goes out. The play ends here. It is a very beautiful and a successful play written by Ibsen. If you have anything more to add on to what I have said, please write it in the comment box. Like the video, share it with your friends, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe. Thank you.